All right, what's going on, guys? Got another sample breakdown here. Today we are looking at another kind of vintage Griselda Rock Marcy type idea. It really sounds more like Rock Marciano to me. It's like pretty dark. It sounds like it's a deep crate dig, you know what I mean? So that's kind of where my head was at when I was making it. But also, I feel like you could easily put trap drums on this and hear some kind of other more modern trap rapper on. So it's a pretty simple idea, but there's some really cool techniques that I use for this one. So let's take a listen to the final sample and then we'll break it down. Pretty simple. It's just a loop, right? It's only really an 8-bar loop. You can hear someone from the Griselda camp or Rock Marciano, someone like that rapping on it. But again, like I said, I feel like you can also pretty easily hear trap drums, and someone like Offset comes to mind for this one for some reason. But let's go ahead and break it down. We'll go ahead and start with the bass because we start with the bass a lot of times. Very extremely simple on this one. Next, we can talk about the piano. We're just following that same droning pattern that the bass is following. So bass and piano together. We have two different cellos playing here. Very simple melody going on there. And you can see I got into doing some of the automation here. Doing stuff like that just really helps give it a more real feel than just a stagnant melody. And we have some more strings here. Here we're playing the chord progression with a little bit of a line on top of it that doesn't really follow the chord progression, but it's not really a melody either. Just kind of like a top line, I guess. We'll play that. So really simple stuff, and I played that top line on here just to give it a little bit of extra feeling. With both of them playing together, you're just kind of getting the chords kind of underneath everything else. And I really like that tremolo in there. It just really adds the realism, especially with all the modulation in there on the dynamics. So that's all of the instruments. And the last thing we have here are the vocals. And the vocal line is following that cello line exactly. It's the same thing.
Dios nos bendiga a todos. Dios nos bendiga a todos.
So those were my vocals, and like I said, I was trying to make it sound like it was like a deep crate dig to find this sample, so I sang a Spanish part. Old Google Translate helped me. Tried to say, God bless us all, and hopefully, you know, it translates well. But so you can see I recorded it 6 times, just changed my voice a little bit each time to get a little bit of a different character on each take, so then it sounds more like a group. Nothing crazy going on here. So those those are all of the sections, right? Again, really simple idea, but the thing that's really different about this project, something that I've done before, but I haven't done recently, and I don't think I've really broke down in any of these videos for you guys, is remiking. So what I did after I had all of these sections, I played them through my monitors in my room and recorded it back through this mic. So I'll play each of those sections individually, recorded on the mic through the monitors.
Dios nos bendiga a todos.
That's something that, again, like I said, I've done in the past. I haven't done it in a while, and I don't think I've broken it down yet. That really, really starts to give a realistic feeling to what you're doing if you're trying to go for that vintage tone. After that's done, each section is now mono, and you can then spread them and place them where you want in the mix. So that's a really good way to get some cool vintage tones, is remiking. And then the last thing I did to take it even a step further was, once I remiked it and had everything put together, panned how I wanted it, I did some panning through here, then I went and recorded it to tape down here. That's what the final version is through the Revox A77 that I have. So a really cool way to get those vintage tones. You know, you could even take it a step further, and if you have some kind of tape machine, whether it be like the Revox, or I also have, you know, a cassette, and I've done it this way before on the cassette, where I'll remic it and then I'll bounce stems out to a cassette and then record all of the stems back in from the cassette and then put them all back together. So you can really, really get some good tones just by remiking, bouncing stems out to another medium tape and then recording them back in. In this case, I remiked the stems, then I bounced the whole project tape and brought it back in. And you know, that gives you a lot of realism, a lot of inconsistencies. You can hear when I play this whole sample by itself how there's inconsistencies. There's kind of bouncing back and forth between left and right channels a little bit. There's sections where the tape kind of cuts out a little bit, and you know, it can be a little bit frustrating if you're not going for that dirty vintage tone. But when you are going for that dirty vintage tone, stuff like this really, really makes the difference. You know, the final one again sounds like this. You know, you can really hear right through this section that it was like tape was kind of messing up there. Really simple idea as far as the sample goes, but you know, multiple really cool technique, right? The remiking itself could be used in its own technique, and then bouncing to tape could be used in another one. You can use them together to really get a cool vintage tone. That's it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you so much for all the support.